But yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it's either money or it's the deal. And what's really funny is that you don't know that enough until you've done all the work. I think that still remains a very big issue. I really think those are the big three, which is the money, the deal, and then actually the daily discipline.
Alrighty, folks, we are going to review the ORaaT Celebration 2.0. We're actually going to go through some of your questions. I have a bunch of questions here that we captured from the room. But before we get into the Q&A, I'd love to hear Matt's thoughts about the event. First off, thank you for being there. You were running around just about as hard as I was.
No,
you
had a much harder job than I did. You had to make sure people were there to go on stage. Yeah. So I was like, man, so much better him than me. So much better him than me. Mike, event was amazing. It was amazing. It was absolutely energy charged. Thousands of new relationships made. People doubling down on their strategies. Just amazing guest speakers. It's just rudely. I told people, I said, hey, listen, I spent $5,000 to be here.
Yeah.
Literally, I spent $5,000 to be there. I loved it. Would do it all over again. So it was amazing. What an amazing event you guys put together. I know that you had a bunch of support staff, but it was your mind's eye and your expectation and your expectation of quality and level. Mike, you hit it on all cylinders. It was just an amazing event. I had so much fun.
Yeah. So I want to kind of check things, because one of the things, again, I can't control the audience, which again, the audience far exceeded my expectations. That was actually my biggest fear, frankly. Is my biggest fear was year one was, again, a 50K celebration. And some people had been on that journey with us for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Right. Since we announced it.
Sure.
So my concern is year two would drop off that vibe. Right. But it didn't. It exceeded year one. So
Mike, it was, year one was a lot of fun, but you could tell it was year one.
Yeah.
But man, this was awesome. This, like, the couple things that didn't go perfectly in the first one, you fixed them. And just everything. It was awesome. We had so much fun. Ash had a lot of fun. I knew there were a lot of wives there.
Yeah. It was more couples. Olivia
more couples. Yeah. It was great. So it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah. So I when I was putting together the agenda, I took kind of, I don't know, I guess you could look at it as being 3 risks. The first one was I chose to have couples lead off day 1 and day 2, which I think I will be doing continuously, because again, it is about the couples. It is about relationships. It's not about being a lone wolf. So obviously you and Ashley kicked off day 1, speaker 1, but we had Suleika and Jeff day 2, speaker 1. What do you think about couples kind of leading off each day?
It was awesome. Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. It's one of the things that we spoke on was the most important team that you're ever going to build is the one you build in your house. And so, having a lot of husband and wives there was just awesome. It was awesome to see. Thank you for everybody that came up to us and thanked us. It was truly our pleasure to be there. And thanks to Zoob for letting us do that. But it was great. Jeff and Suleika, different part in their journey. The theme, and I don't know if you were going for it, but the theme was a little bit of a poking in people's chests. It was a little bit of finger in the chest. Stop whining. Look at what all of these people, and I'm going to get his name wrong, so I apologize. But my favorite guest was the something gay,
Tom Birkin,
the frugal gay.
Frugal gay, yes.
Amazing. From picker to picker. I'm a huge fan. The guy was awesome. I think that people weren't understanding until I finally was like, I need to know how much he's getting out of all that. Cause he didn't want to brag. He's a Southern gentleman. So he didn't want to brag. And I'm like, I got to know how much, how much. And he's like, I made $10,000 on leftover boxes of perfume and cologne. I'm like this guy never made more than $10 an hour. And the guy's out there talking about how he's grinding. And the guy will buy anything, that he can buy for a half a penny and turn for a penny. He'll buy anything. And just amazing respect to him. But I think that people saw there's many ways to get to the kingdom,
Mhm.
of being a property owner. And I think you showed them at least a dozen different ways to get there this weekend.
Yeah, that's kind of risk number 2 is probably the most difficult decision I had to make was, how do I take up limited time
Yeah.
and show love to the people that come back each and every week, but also introduce new faces with new
Mhm.
stories that I believe are valuable, like Tom Burkham, Frugal Gay, like Lisa Sutton. Um, that was probably the thing I stressed over the most was
I get it.
trying to find a balance of old faces and new names. That was tough. So don't know how that came across.
No, I thought it came across great. I was excited that I was still one of the faces that got a chance to speak to people, and do that with my amazing wife. And I thought Jeff and Saleko were great. And I think that, the more ideas, you never know that idea that's finally going to resonate with somebody that's going to get them into action. And so the fact that you could bring 12 fresh new ideas and some core concepts that people can build on. And I think that they heard a lot of different things this year than they heard last year that gave them more and new ideas that they could possibly, implement to help get their journey going.
Yeah.
Or turbocharge it.
I love that. And one of the things that, again, nobody knows this, but I held on to that surprise keynote on Saturday until the very last minute. And good karma came through because Tuesday, who I wanted to put there came through, and Graham Stephan showed up and gave us an hour of his time, which was greatly appreciated. What did you think about his talk? And he brought his, YouTube ninja Alex with him. Let's not forget him.
Yeah.
What did you think about the surprise?
Well, first of all, I was in the podcast room when I heard who it was going to be. And I literally said to him, I go, shut up. And he goes, really? I go, freaking Zoob. What else is new? What else is new? Freaking flexing show off, And I was just like, and I was laughing. And then I was like, I'm in the podcast room for part of his thing. So I was like, so literally I was there like, all right, I was literally telling him, okay, we're going to go in there. I promise. I just got to see like a little bit, but it was cool. Like so many of us in the community, I kind of grew up with Graham. Like, I remember I remember very early Graham.
Yeah. 5-6 years ago, Graham.
Yeah. I remember very early Graham. And it's really funny because I think one of the first videos he ever saw of yours that he commented on was me making fun of him.
Yeah, it was.
And I was just like, story of my life. That sounds about right. No, honestly, for me, it's totally fine. When people make fun of me, I don't care. So it's, I sometimes think the same way, but it's often wrong. But I thought he's awesome. Truly some of my favorite interviews that get done now on YouTube are his iced coffee hour ones.
Oh, I love those. I watch every week.
I don't watch everyone, but I watch a lot of them and the things he gets people to say. And I think, and then that he also puts into perspective. So surprised guest was just phenomenal. Like kind of blew my doors off a little bit. When I heard what that name was, now the only problem you have is for 2025, 2026.
Folks, that was a one and done. Graham will not be back next year. You could just take that
all due respect. I don't want Graham.
Yeah.
There is somebody else. There's a big name that you've had on recently that would just be a little bit, just even more awesome.
All right. We'll talk about that off air. We'll see what you're talking about. The last thing I want to say about Graham coming out, and again, I don't think people realize this, but I'm put it out there so everybody knows. A lot of people of Graham's stature only speak at events when they're paid.
Sure.
Right. 50,000, 100,000, whatever it is. Graham took zero.
That's awesome.
Zero. He wanted to do it because he appreciated the One Rental at a Time story. He knows that One Rental at a Time started with him. I was listening to a YouTube video in the back of a van in Taiwan. That's how this whole channel got born, was Graham Stephan in my ear in 2018. And been lucky enough to interview him. I've been on the Iced Coffee Hour, and I've had lunch with him. And I just want everybody to know that, I didn't pay anybody. And B, I didn't pay Graham either. Graham came out of the kindness of his heart, and I just want everybody to know that. And then the third risk I took is I blended mental and physical health into day 2 at the end, because one of the things that I missed, or thought I missed, in event 1 is I didn't really find a way to capture the goodness, the vibe, the energy that was electric. And I know, once you go back to work and life, and it's just lost very quickly. So again, I invited Fred Ledbetter up to talk about that. He's a pastor. I've had him on the channel. And again, that story of the Ryan Pineda event last year was exactly that. It was the moment I knew I was going to interview or have Fred be there, because he just keyholed him. It was so awesome. I wish I had that recorded. But what'd you think of having mental and then physical health? I'm actually, my doctor who's working with me all year came up and it basically tried to help people how to take better of their physical bodies. What'd you think of that change up?
So I loved that it was there. I didn't get to see it. It was in the podcast room. But there were a lot of interviews. Mike, I kid you not, I'm not sure if your editors told you, but I think I did 14.
Oh, so wow. I did not know. Wow.
It's a lot. But I told you we would use it. We would use it. We would make sure that we would help people and talk to lots of folks. We talked to a lot of amazing people that were there in the audience.
I'm glad it got used. That room alone cost me 10 grand.
Trust me. I used it like it was my own. I kept on waiting. I was like, guys, do you have anybody else? They're like, no. I was like, all right, let's get somebody else in here. Mike will be more happy that this thing is being fully utilized. So, and the guys, the staff back there, what was their name again? The
Heartfelt Productions.
Heartfelt Productions. The guys back there, father and son team, the crew that they had back there, absolutely amazing. They know that we're not professionals, and so they're fantastic at making, recommendations, which is hugely just thank you for that. Thank you for putting up with me for all that time. But we got a lot of great stories, a lot of people that were able to share a lot of fun stuff. I hope people watch it. But there's those 3 things that you put together, kind of that tail end of day 2. I'm super pumped to be able to watch them. Because I didn't get to participate, but the feedback that I heard, I actually saw your doc outside.
Yeah, I had to move him outside. He was surrounded
with 17 people.
Yes.
I think
2
that's
layers.
Yeah, I think everybody gets really excited, to be there and to be at the event. I think that the only thing, and you're so kind and gracious as a host, the one thing that people need to take some personal responsibility over is getting into the back room and talking. Because, you bring such amazing speakers, and that might not be important to the person that's in the back having a conversation or creating that next relationship, but that's what the room is for. Get back there, create relationships. We did a lot of that. I tried to spend as much time back there, connecting people. So people that were there were some guys, struggling getting mortgages. I introduced them to Matt, the mortgage guy, and pointed out Convoy to them and other people that I knew were lenders. So it was just an amazing, what's crazy is usually networking events are local, but this is a networking event that literally gets you national connections.
Yeah, I love that. All right, let's get into a couple of questions. There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
Again, with Dion next week. Let me look at the board.
Sure. And our good buddy Dion. Oh, yeah. Just worked so hard to be there on Saturday to present. He was sick. For those of you who don't know, I was staying in a house with Dion. He was in his room, except for the 2 hours that he was driving there on stage and going back home. That's how much and how important this was to him.
Yeah. Dion, you're amazing, man.
Amazing.
So here we go. Question. What's the sweet spot for when to give up your W-2 job?
I think Dion probably was the one who had it the most right, Mike, which is 5X. I think when you're 5X that income that you were making in your regular job, if you were one of those, 401k real big time savers and investors like that, and you just got this massive 401k, then maybe it's a little bit different for you. But for me, even though my nut was a whole lot bigger, I still was at 5 times, and I hit that probably 10 years before. But that's how I knew it was just finally time where it was right in my head and my heart, where it was, okay, I'm ready to move on. So I think that 5X number is a pretty good number.
Yeah, I'll go a little lower. I think you've got to be 2x or higher for sure. But also some of that is life decisions, right?
Sure.
When you're like yourself, you have young kids still. Dion's
Yeah.
single, right?
Mhm.
Or I mean, he's not
And
married, but
old.
and old, right? He said it. I didn't, Dion. But again, it's certainly somewhere between 2x and 5x. It's also
Yeah.
what do you what are you willing to sacrifice, or how much
Yep.
risk you want to take? Obviously, 5x is much better than 2x, but it's possible. And again, we're not saying quickly, but it certainly can happen. In 10 years or so. So keep going.
I think you had your finger on the pulse better than anybody, is that people were leaving too quickly.
Yep. Question number 1. What is the biggest thing from holding you back from buying your next property? What do you think?
I think for most people, it's cash.
Really think it's money?
I do. I think for most people, it's cash. I think a lot of people are shopping, but I think that, if I think that almost everybody buys when they have enough money. I think the challenge is that, yes, there's also issues with finding and creating opportunity, and that's why so many people have to look for seller finance deals, is because they need to find a way to do it without having to put 20% or 25% down. So I think the biggest barrier still is money. And I think the second biggest barrier is, finding a deal that makes sense on the MLS. And I think that's the bigger issue.
Yeah, I'm going to go with finding the deal as number 1. And maybe that's just naive. But I think a lot of people, again, if I were to kind of step back and look at the people that I interact with, not the core one rental at a time folks, but the people that are on the periphery, they're still not focused, right? I mean, how long have I been saying buy box? How long have I been defining a buy box?
Sure.
Goodness gracious. And still I hear people going, well, I'm looking here, I'm looking there, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm like, God, what am I doing wrong? You're not listening. How many more times do I have to tattoo it on my forehead or something? But I mean, it's wild to think about.
I'll pay for that tattoo. But space for rent. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it's either money or it's the deal. And what's really funny is that you don't know that enough until you've done all the work. I think that still remains a very big issue. I really think those are the big 3, which is the money, the deal, and then actually the daily discipline.
Oh yeah. And I'll go the exact reverse. The daily discipline first, finding, and then the money. But again, it's just it is those 3. You can argue what order they're in. Here'll be the third question. We'll save the rest for when Dion's hopefully back at 100% next week. How do you become a better speaker?
Practice. How many times have you given a presentation, Mike?
Oh, by now 10,000. But I think it's even more important. I was an accountant, and my first job out of being an accountant / consultant for finance was pre-sales.
Yeah.
Now, most of the people in pre-sales are engineers, computer scientists, because you're selling computer software.
Yeah. You're talking about product bit and byte.
Yeah, bit and byte. And I had to go up against people that were unquestionably smarter than me, right? Because again, it's dog-eat-dog world. I get paid for what I help kill. And this was so the company was called Chainlink Technologies, had a rebranding to Quintana before we get bought. But anyways, I remember sitting in the back of the room. We were about 30 employees at the time. And I sat in this big classroom, and I gave my demo talk no less than 100 times to an empty room. An empty room. Practice. Now, if you're looking for specifics, I generally recommend, and actually Micah, was a young man that you interviewed.
Amazing. Yeah.
I recommended him to go to junior college and take public speaking 101 and 102. I do think if you could go to a junior college that's close by, it's cheap. Go take the class.
Yep.
If that doesn't work, go to Toastmasters.
Yep.
Those are action items. Go.
Yeah, I agree. I think, there is nothing that can make you more money than being able to effectively communicate. And presentation is part of that. when you're pitching, I mean, when I work with banks, I know exactly what they want to talk about, and I know exactly how to package it in a way that they're going to sit there and go, this is complete logical sense, and this is something that we want to do. People are just like, oh, Mike, we're really lucky because we get people to do what we're really lucky. We've sold for our, yeah, I know. We've sold for our entire careers. And so for me, I went right from telemarketing department to salesperson. And so I was having to do 200 dials, 250 dials a day and get people interested in talking to the next rep.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a year, and that was thousands and that was literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of phone calls. So yeah, I think if the biggest concern or the biggest idea that you need to work on is getting better at public speaking, I agree. Mike is 100% right. Something like a junior college, community college that's close by where you can take that class, or Toastmasters. They will give you things that you need on not only how to get over the nervousness. That's the number one fear people have, is public speaking. So expect going into it that everybody else in the room is just as nervous as you.
Yeah. And again, it's a class I took in junior college. It literally made me $1 million. I went from being an introvert to somebody who can hold his own, give it a presentation, which would not have been the guy you saw in high school, right? In high school, I was the quiet little guy that just wanted to get the hell out of there. But yeah, public speaking, $1 million skill, practice. Go get some training. It's, again, public speaking is one of the greatest fears, even more than dying. It's wild.
It is.
But yeah, it's definitely a valuable skill. Lumberjack, where can people find you?
Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We are having so much fun. We do a 90-minute live stream, answer all your questions. You get to see the amazing One Rental at a Time community. A lot of them are in the live stream, asking questions, creating relationships, networking. You'd be surprised how many people, somebody says, oh yeah, I invest in Pittsburgh. And then 13 or 14 steps down, somebody's like, I invest in Pittsburgh too. And that's literally how they get connected. That's what Mike has done an amazing job of building in this community. And so, everything that I have in my YouTube channel is really modeled after what I've learned from Mike, minus the 15,000 videos.
You're much smarter than me. You're much more efficient.
Much more lazy, I guess.
Thanks, family.
Thank